How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
The sweet taste of hitting the winning runs on the face of KL Rahul, who exercises to some degree the ghosts of Ahmedabad 2023. Yes, it's not a like-for-like, it's not a World Cup final, but he'll sleep a lot better tonight on the 4th of March 2025 than he did on November 19. India prevail over Australia in semi-final one of the ICC Men's Champions Trophy. Runs from Virat Kohli, runs from top and tail with 40s and 20s as 265 is chased down with 11 balls to spare. This is Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Match Day. Anil Kumble and Sanjay Manjrekar with me. We'll also hear from Ashton, Agar. That's a good game. Compelling semi-final to watch. Had us all into it. In the end, India put in fine display, Sanjay.
Proficient run chase is what I saw, and this is what 50 overs cricket is all about. And Virat Kohli actually epitomized what people like Kane Williamson have done before him, Joe Root as well. I mean, ticking off singles for fun, hardly any dot balls. Shreyas Iyer and Virat Kohli together played spin well. All the spin demons were out of his head. And that partnership just built a momentum for India and the belief that there was nothing alarming that was going to happen.
Yeah. Do you now call that a chase in control?
Yes, when you have 265 runs on the board, the run rate needs to be under check. You don't want that to go beyond 7, 7.5, 8. India never allowed that. Every batter who came in contributed. Yeah, like you mentioned, 20s, 30s, 40s. Virat was there with that, taking the pressure off and then getting to that 80-plus score. And I thought everyone who came in terms of their intent, was really good, right from ball one. Of course, Rohit Sharma got India to a good start. But then right towards the end, Hardik Pandya and KL Rahul ensured that they had everything under control and got India home.
The common sense template that I'm harping on, I think I've realized in 50 overs cricket, that is what you need, not so much baseball or nothing fancy out of the box, and the 360-degree batsmanship not needed. You just need to be, practical, and India showed that. Today they played as a team that was out to get the target and not get 300 runs in 45 overs. So very, very impressive run chase.
Yeah, I think Anil said this before. ODI cricket, we've not seen much of it these days, but it's a shorter test match than it is a longer T20.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It is. You look at all the players who have done exceptionally well in this tournament. All of them are test players.
Yeah.
All of them, most of them. I mean, at least 90% of the runs, 100 scored, consistent run scorers have all been test match batters. And it says a lot about the competition, the 50-over competition, where it's not just about coming and hitting boundaries, it's also about respecting the opposition, respecting the conditions, and taking some time to ensure that you go through that phase.
Right, Ashton Agar's been listening patiently to this. Ashton, what's the story from an Australia point of view? 20, 30 runs short, perhaps?
Definitely. I think the wicket played quite nicely. I thought they did all right, against India's attack and their good spin bowlers, but ultimately we lacked a couple of those lower order partnerships that India played really nicely. I mean, they batted around Virat beautifully. They kept the scoreboard in check. The guys that came in kept pushing the rate and allowed Virat to do his thing, hit the odd boundary and he just kept ticking over. I think I saw a stat he has hit the most singles in one-day cricket since the year 2000, which is phenomenal. So it was a bit of a masterclass from him again, and all the other batters contributed nicely.
I think I've heard you say this before, Ashton, and you can extend on it. You've bowled to Kohli. I think you've said batters like Hardik Pandya are intimidating to bowl to, but Kohli is the kind of batter that's hardest to bowl to because you just can't keep him on strike for more than 2 balls.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part about bowling to him. It's not the damage that he can do to the fence. It's just the fact you can never build pressure on him. So it's really hard to get him out, in a sense. You never really feel like you're on top of him unless the ball is really spinning, and you don't get a lot of wickets in one-day cricket like that. He has this fantastic ability to hit your best ball, the top of middle stump, slightly spinning away. He just holds the bat face there slightly longer than other batters do, opens it at the last second and hits it into that cover point gap. I mean, he's probably the best in the world at doing that. And he's very difficult to build pressure on.
Now you have 5 fielders inside the circle.
Yes.
So it's not as easy as it used to be during our time when we had 4 fielders. So Virat Kohli, if you saw that whole innings, very rarely has he hit the ball straight to the field and hasn't got a run. So I think that issue that he had against spin where he wasn't able to rotate strike and all that hopefully that is out of his system now, because today was an affirmation of the fact that he's back to that very nice footwork, off the back foot, playing late, finding gaps all the time, found gaps. The best batter to find gaps today from both sides.
Yeah, and I think they made the... Yeah, Anil, please.
And rarely, sort of makes a mistake. He's totally in control, especially in run chases, in teams like this, when you're chasing 265. He's in total control, other than that one sort of missed chance by Maxwell, and the mistake that he made ultimately got out, in that last ball that he tried to sort of hit it.
You don't mind a mistake at 84, though.
I know. So it's not just this innings. Every time he bats in a run chase, there's hardly any sort of loss of control, you may call, and he's always in control of the situation.
And this is a format we all expected, didn't we?
Yeah.
He had problems in test matches in Australia, T20, is now retired, but 50 overs was always going to get the best of whatever is left of this great batter, Virat Kohli. And we've seen that exactly.
This has always been his format,
yes.
No matter what the status of his career. And as Anil talks about the mistake, 51 put down by Glenn Maxwell. Ashton, how big a moment?
It's always a big moment, and when you drop the best one-day player in the world, it always could change the game for the better or for the worse. So it's a big moment. That happens. I mean, there's never an easy one out there. So especially for Glenn Maxwell. I mean, Max is an unbelievable fielder, and we've seen him do some ridiculous things. But it's a shame that happened. But it would have been nice to have that wicket, put more pressure on the lower order for India, see them absorb a little bit more pressure. All of a sudden, the rate creeps up, and you never know what can happen. But it wasn't to be.
Yeah, as we now analyse both innings, I think commentators brought it up too. India's dot ball percentage was significantly lower than Australia batting first. We go back to the Labuschagne-Smith partnership, which was 56 of 85. Shreyas and Kohli, I think, went it closer to a runner ball. How much of a difference was just the ability to find gaps today for you, Ashton?
Yeah, it was a huge difference. India showed their class against the spin too, I feel. Their ability to manipulate the ball by just using soft hands and opening the blade at the right time. I feel like they never looked out of sync with the ball, and that was a big thing on that wicket. I feel like they learnt really quickly, adapted to those conditions, and played our spinners quite beautifully. Yeah, there were a couple of wickets, and Kohli, I actually think he picked that wrong and from Zampa and was trying to hit it a little bit squarer than he did. It looked like he got the middle of the bat, but a little too flat. But the other credit has to go to their spinners as well. I think when you have two left-arm orthodox spinners who can fire the ball in at middle stump and force the batsman to play a shot they don't want to play, that's the best way to create pressure and dot balls, and it's the easiest type of bowling to captain as well.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about the batting, but how much of today was decided because the better spinners were India's?
I think, when you have four quality spinners on any surface, it's not going to be easy for any batter to just keep knocking singles and then score boundaries at will. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get loose deliveries. On a pitch, today was perhaps the best surface that we have seen in Dubai throughout this competition. So on a surface like that, when you bowl in the right length, it was still not easy for the batters. When you bowled fuller, it was then perhaps slightly easier for the batters. When you bowl that good length, which consistently Agar and Jadeja hit, that's their normal length. So it's very difficult for any quality batter also to get runs.
And look at the wickets the spinners took. Varun Chakravarti got Travis Head, Jadeja got Labuschagne and another important wicket. So they didn't allow the innings to blossom. And maybe the pace bowlers wouldn't have done that. Having said that, Shami's got 3. So not just quality spin, they just nipped a lot of innings in the bud. And in the end, the score was the kind that India almost comfortably reached there in the end.
Yeah, you spoke of captaincy, didn't you, at half-time? And Steve Smith looked like he was proactive, he had fielders in. But would this have been any different had you had one of Mitchell Starc or Josh Hazlewood or Cummins himself? Ashton, you sense it would have been any different?
Potentially. I think they have an ability to do things with the ball that other people can't. They have also the physical attributes of height that can make a difference on a surface like that. A little bit of extra bounce all of a sudden might bring the outside edge slightly more into play. Swinging the ball early on prodigiously as Mitchell Starc does. So you would love to have those guys in. We didn't, and we did our best, I guess, with what we had. But you can't help but think, yeah, it would have been massive to have one of those guys in there. And I just guess it shows how important they are and how important they've been to this Australian team, because they do leave a big hole.
Yeah, but I think Australia still needed to bat better with those guys in. What could have happened is that maybe India would have been tested a lot more. The run chase would have been a little more tough. We would have got closer. But now, in hindsight, as well, you can see a lot of the Australian batters, had they just hung in a little longer. And 50 overs format, I think, makes you think in that fashion. Travis Head, the way he got out, and a couple of other batters as well. Maxwell playing that shot. I know he bats in that fashion. But 50 overs cricket is where you pay a price for it.
Sure.
Yeah, I thought the Smith dismissal.
Yes,
at that
37th
stage.
over.
Yeah, especially for someone like Maxwell. I think Maxwell would probably relish coming in with 7 or 8 overs to spare rather than 13, 14 overs. Because then suddenly he starts thinking, I need to bat another 14 overs here. But whereas when he walks in, when you know that you have only 8 overs, he just goes about really destroying the bowling attack. And Australia would have probably scored another 20, 25 if Smith had stayed slightly longer or Maxwell had stayed slightly longer. So those were the only two, sort of dismissals that you can look at. Travis Head has always given them a great start. Yeah, it was fortunate that India got him out at 39 or 38, whatever. But if he had stayed for longer, then probably 300 was on the card. So that's the kind of player he is.
Yeah, India did sort of strike more and more frequently. Even Carey getting run out at the time that he did. There were 17 balls in the innings. Another 10 balls of Alex Carey. Maybe we get those 20, 25 runs, but that's all for later. For now, let's talk about the players that did have the impact that their teams would have liked. And Anil Kumble knows KL Rahul very well, and how satisfying that innings would have felt. He'll sleep like a baby tonight.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We brought it up in the pre-show about the disappointment that he had and the regret still sort of lingering on from that World Cup final, where perhaps if he had stayed there, played a different shot, not thought differently just before he faced that delivery or just before that spell of Starc. So all those thoughts come back, and then I'm sure, with the kind of innings that he had. I mean, we were talking while we were watching that, saying that he should have been ahead of Akshar Patel, even in this innings. I know Akshar did a good job of getting that partnership with Virat Kohli, but someone like KL Rahul coming in at that stage, this is what he can do. If he gets to that 30, he will ensure that he crosses the line, and he does that. He does that consistently. Yes, he missed out on one opportunity in the last game against New Zealand, but otherwise, KL is a class act. I mean, this will certainly give him a lot of confidence, and there's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
He does well; it's expected. If he fails even in one innings, then suddenly the whole world comes and on top of KL. And he had pressure even with his keeping in the last game.
Yeah.
But today, I think he showed what he's capable of.
Sometimes you wonder whether little time is good for KL Rahul, because then he's only thinking of attacking. Today, I mean, he wanted to take the onus of attacking. And when he plays attacking shots, then he looks the player. I've rarely seen KL Rahul play an innings where he's sort of playing steadily, ones and twos, and drafting and gets 100 and wins the game like Virat Kohli does. So maybe down the order, in a way, would suit him, but I'm so happy for him. This is a guy who's so sensitive. I mean, you can see that every mistake that he makes or every batting failure just plays on his mind. I'm sure, I don't know him well, maybe Anil knows him better, obviously, but seems a nice guy. And India wants him to be part of the playing 11, part of the squad. So this kind of an innings, and you saw him, you're right, at the end of the game, he was like a happy man.
We have so many opinions on KL Rahul, and that Australia World Cup final innings that he played, even though it was because of him, India got to some kind of scores. One way of looking at it, people tend to go hammer and tong about should he have attacked more. We've had all these opinions in our part of the world, Ashton. I wonder what opponents actually think of KL Rahul with all the commentary that goes on about him in India.
I think, first of all, he's a really well-respected guy as a person. And that you hear that from everyone who's had an experience with him. They say he's very calm, he's a very consistent type of character, nice guy to be around in the change rooms, and I think that he's a likeable person. So that's, first of all, that's a big tick straight away in any dressing room, you would think. As a player, he's probably one of the cleanest strikers of a cricket ball I've seen. I mean, he has amazing hands. His ability to hit the ball over covers and flick off his legs. When he's really in sync with the ball, that they go miles. And I've seen him do it in Test cricket as well. I think he hit a 6 at Adelaide Oval one day over cover against the new ball, and it was astonishing. So it was really good to see him go out there and play with nice intent and looking to hit the ball and skip down the wicket and hit a 6. It was great to see that, because it felt like watching a Rahul of 8 years ago when he was absolutely flying. I have noticed as an Australian that he does get a lot of criticism. He gets jumbled all around the order, and it would be really hard to settle. But he does seem to do a good job wherever he bats, and he played a really nice innings and an important innings tonight.
India almost never lost 2 wickets quickly, with the exception of maybe Gill falling 2 overs or 3 overs after Rohit, and just the ability for them to build little partnerships. Akshar Patel, Hardik Pandya, there was never really an entry back for Australia, is it fair to say?
It came down to the basic, point, which is about ability. Indian batters just had the ability to play this kind of bowling and spin quality quite comfortably. So it wasn't going to be an Indian batter coming in and being bamboozled or finding the bowling too difficult to handle. So that just made the job easier for all batters that came in.
Is this fair expectation of this team, or do you sense they've done really well to get this big sort of semi-final through? There was all sorts of chit-chat of the form of Rohit, after what happened in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, drawing Australia, which you said, rather play them in a semi than a final.
Oh yes, I certainly believe that this team, especially in white ball cricket, over the last 1 year, even in the World Cup, they had a great run till that final. But I thought it was expected lines that India would go to the finals, the kind of cricket that they've been playing, the kind of personnel that they have, and of course the conditions sort of dictated that India played an additional spinner. They had that in their armory, and there is experience there. There is experience, there is quality, and Rohit Sharma at the top of the innings, that's the role that he sort of plays, and we saw that. We saw that even today. You want to be that fearless guy up front, and as a captain, yes, as someone who's watching and wanting Indian cricket to do well, you want Rohit to continue beyond the 10, 11, 20 overs, and if he can do that, perhaps in the final, then it's going to be an easier chase if Rohit had batted beyond the 20 overs.
So quick word on, I think, Gautam Gambhir as well, who's had a
lot of pressure,
tough time. And he's made some interesting selections. There have been certain moves from him when there was that obsession with left hand, right hand in Australia. But this move to have the 4th spinner in, nobody, mentioned that along with Kuldeep Yadav, have a Varun Chakrabarti. We all thought, let's try him against New Zealand at the expense of another spinner. But playing 4 spinners was a master stroke, and I think that suddenly made India look different and hard to beat in these conditions.
Today wasn't as much of a Turner or a pitch like New Zealand, so in many ways it was a
gamble. When you look at, say, Australia or South Africa, they're getting better players of spin. Who would they rather face, a Harshit Rana or a Varun Chakrabarti or a Kuldeep Yadav in these conditions? And, in a way, that side boundaries at Dubai are quite long. Now, if this was Sharjah, would have been a huge gamble to have a spinner. But, I think you've got to also acknowledge the out of the field kind of calls made, and especially with this 4 spinners selection, the over rate also got better.
Yes,
from both
we also
sides.
know now that the final of the Champions Trophy will be played in Dubai. So there is that little nugget to throw in. For what it's worth, let's look at Australia's campaign. What would they take away from this? It's fair to say, Ashton, that Australia don't really take defeats all that seriously. Geez, they don't even take World Cup wins that seriously. Pat Cummins was pushing the World Cup on his own trolley when he got back in pretty much an empty airport. But what's been the Australian story? What do they take away from this tournament for you?
I think you have to try and look at the positives, right? And I think they've built some more depth in some players. Ben Dwarshuis getting more game time, Nathan Ellis stepping up as senior bowling role, trying to lead the fast bowling attack, more games into Spencer Johnson, understanding his game and the impact he can have with the new ball. Tanveer Sangha coming and playing in a final. Cooper Connolly getting more exposure, particularly out there with the bat against a moving ball. Today was really hard for him, but he will be better off for that. I just think feeling that occasion against the best side in this tournament is a big moment for him, and also getting more overs. Bowling 8 overs, his first one-day wicket, his first international wicket, I think, and it's Rohit Sharma. It's a pretty big one, so more experience into some younger guys that they've picked and some more inexperienced guys is huge for the future of Australian cricket, and I think that's how they've probably looked at this tournament when they were missing the big 3 fast bowlers.
Anything,
Do you
gentlemen, to add?
think Australia will do anything different with their personnel, Ashton? Because I'm just thinking, somebody like a Labuschagne, just from the outside, I've not really closely studied his one-day career, but looking at him in this tournament, are they likely to go with a couple of other different batters in the middle order?
Oh, there's always a chance, but I think that there's enough younger and newer guys in there and inexperienced guys that you need Smith, Marnus, guys like that in there who have played a lot of cricket to bat around. And I think that Marnus is a very quality player and he will find form. And there will be some good wickets coming up that he's going to bat on and find the middle of the bat, and all of a sudden he'll be off and running, and it could be 2 years of prolific run scoring for him. You never know, but I think having experience to bat around for the inexperienced guys to learn off is also extremely important, because if you just play new guys all the time, it can make winning very hard, and it can make the transition a little bit too difficult.
One huge bright spot has been Josh Inglis. The kind of innings that he played there, 50 overs cricket was outstanding. I think one of the better Champions Trophy innings that we've seen. So
all right.
There's
well,
that.
Next ICC ODI event is in South Africa with the World Cup in 2027, and Zimbabwe and Namibia. So we'll see what Australia build from that year. Their Champions Trophy campaign comes to an end. Before I just wrap things up, I just want to ask, in a good game like this, ODI game, you have many moments. So we'll just give you maybe a few seconds to think it through. You had Smith's wicket, you had Travis Head's wicket, you had the carry run out, second innings, drop catch of Kohli. So much has happened in this game. What do you sense was the most defining moment that perhaps led to the result? Ashton, you can go first.
Oh, Virat making runs in a run chase. I mean, it's classic. It's something he's done his whole career. He's done it so many times against Australia as well, and he just steps up in big games, and India needed that from one of their batters tonight, and they would have hoped that it was going to be him, and it was. He was the strut of that innings for everyone to hang off, and that's really important. So for me, big game, Virat Kohli.
Anil Kumble?
Yeah, I think the partnership between Virat and Shreyas Iyer. I think, when India had lost 2 wickets pretty early, there's still a lot of runs to score. And then when you have that partnership, you don't want a 3rd wicket to fall at that time, and then suddenly starts building pressure. So I thought that partnership between Shreyas and Virat was crucial.
Sanjay?
That's how you win one-day games, and that for me was the vital moment where India made a statement that we'll be playing boring cricket. We're going to tick off 1s and 2s. Shreyas Iyer can hit the big shot, but he didn't try anything. So that's the takeaway, that 50 overs cricket, if you want to win consistently, play boring, safe cricket in the middle, and you'll end up winning most matches. So for me, that partnership.
I'm actually guilty of missing Shreyas Iyer in the conversation, by and large, of so much that's happened. That is a hugely significant innings from him too, which allowed perhaps Virat Kohli
earlier
to
as well
find his
against,
feet.
it was New Zealand, I think he played another good innings where his innings was crucial, while the others, there were 3 failures in the top 5. So Shreyas Iyer has come good. So in these conditions, India had 2 batters in Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer who could knock off singles with 5 fielders inside. Now Virat Kohli had lost that ability for a little while, and he's got it back. And if he's got this confidence of rotating strike, then that just augurs well for his one-day future going forward.
All right. Well, that pretty much is a wrap. You know what? I must thank Ashton Agar for the wonderful debut he's had in this tournament. That's my biggest takeaway as far as the show is concerned from
Absolutely,
an Australian point of view. Ashton, I know it's the first time you've been with us, and there's still a lot more cricket you need to play on the field. But whenever you're ready to call it time and move into a studio or stay in the studio while you're playing, I think there's a lot of place for you. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
No, thank you for having me, guys. It's been a really fun time. I've learned a lot, and it's great to chat with you all. I appreciate it.
All right, Ashton, thank you so much. I can sense there's still so much emotion being a current player for Ashton in the dressing room. You'd have been jumping up and down had the result gone the other way. But Ashton, thank you so much. Right, Anil Kumble and Sanjay Manjrekar, an absolute pleasure. But you know what, before I leave you, once more, something special has started today. We've announced it today on ESPN Cricket for your chance to chase your dream and potentially become the next crickcaster. Well, this is what you might have been waiting for, many of you. If you've ever dreamt of being on this side of the game, breaking down moments, calling the action, bringing the excitement to life, here's your chance to make it happen with ESPN Cricket for Crickcaster, powered by Nexa. All you need to do is record a 1-minute video showcasing your cricket passion, Hindi, English, both, one, go your way, and analyze, predict, simply speak your heart out. Post it on Instagram with the hashtags ESPN Cricket for Nexa and Crickcaster, and don't forget to follow ESPN Cricket 4 and Nexa Experience. The mic's waiting, stage is set, and if you're ready to take guard, register now. Last day, 25th of March. Well, that is the time that we've got. Wonderful semi-final. India book a berth in the final, now in Dubai, of the ICC Men's Champions Trophy. One of South Africa and New Zealand will join them, build up to semi-final number 2 at the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore around the toss. So do join us then. For Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday. Good night.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.